All right, so the focus for this part of the lesson is to complete BCD3, which you've been working on since around about November. So the first thing is to go to Google Classroom and find this assignment, which you can see on my screen, BCD3, Evidence of Individual Responsibility. And inside there, you'll find that there's various bits and pieces, which I'm just going to go through. And we're going to check your progress and set you deadlines to finish this piece of distinction work off. So the first document you'll find is the document that you're actually producing your evidence in. And it would have looked like this originally with very little in there, just some grids and some space for you to put all the evidence that you've been gathering since November. The other thing that you'll find inside the assignment is the presentation, which I'm going to go through. You almost probably will find a Jamboard or other things that you've done with your teacher to sort of generate ideas for this assignment as well. So the aim is that you now finish this distinction task, and those of you who successfully complete D1 and D2, you'll need to have D3 as the final piece of distinction evidence to gain the distinction overall. So in the presentation, we've been through this in class with your teachers, and we introduced you to BCD3 back sort of 3 months ago. So you've had plenty of time to gather all the evidence, or lots of the evidence that you needed for this. So we explained back in November that to gain a distinction in this particular BTEC for each of the coursework modules, so this one in the first year and in the second year, your web design module, you have to demonstrate that you can act as an individual learner, independent learner. And the exam board need to see evidence of individual responsibility, your ability to be creative, and that you can manage yourself. And so we had explained to you back in November then that when you put evidence into your BCD3 document, we wanted a heading like this, a little explanation, nothing too long. So it's just a bit of a signposting about what you were doing, and then the evidence itself. So it's quite simple the way that you are going to produce evidence. And then we went through again back in November, and then subsequent to that, different ideas for the 3 sections. And if you go through this presentation in slow time on your own, you'll just remember what we have talked about in the past. So as I said, there are 3 areas: individual responsibility, creativity, and effective self-management. And the purpose of this assignment, the exam board feel it's really important that students of your level can demonstrate those 3 things to enable you to get this qualification. So in that document that you received, there are 3 tables. And I asked you at that point to not put any evidence in until January. And so now it is January, and we are going to put evidence into these. So we're now going through the process of finally completing BCD3. So since November, you've been putting evidence in, hopefully. We've been giving you prompts to do that along the way, although we're probably not meant to. You're meant to generate all this evidence on your own, but we have given you gentle hints to sort of provide evidence. So these tables you'll find in the document where you're putting your evidence. So these 3 tables. And now is the time that we're going to be filling them in. I'm going to show you some examples in a second of some students who have done it in the past to give you different approaches to do this. So there are different ways that you can add evidence. And as I say, I'll show you some student examples in a second. So what you can do is you can write a statement inside the table about what you did. Another way of providing evidence is writing a statement and putting in some screenshots which are annotated to provide evidence. The third way is to put in a statement and then write where the evidence can be found in your coursework. And to sort of do this effectively, this assignment effectively, you'll need all 3 ways of doing that. I'm going to show you some kind of random students now. So just to remind you, all the evidence goes in here. So you'll find that there's a table for individual responsibility. You would write your statement in here about how you've achieved this particular skill, and you'd explain where the evidence would be. It might be in screenshots, evidence in your document. It might be elsewhere in your coursework. So you do need to make sure you fill in each of those boxes and provide evidence, or where the evidence can be found. Same for creativity and the same for effective self-management. Let me show you through some students who completed this and got distinctions last year. So this is Kate's work. So as you can see, Kate has put in a statement, and they don't have to be particularly long. She's put in a statement in this box, and she has sort of signposted as to where that evidence can be found. So she's done that for all three tables, and then all her evidence is below that, and it's all been kind of evidence as we wanted. So it's got an explanation, it had a screenshot, and it has a title, and she pretty much did that all the way through. So that's one way of doing it, and signposting your work to all the evidence that you create. Here's Connor. Connor did it a slightly different way. Connor put in the statement, and then he put evidence into the table. So he put screenshot evidence in there. It works sometimes. Sometimes the screenshots are a little bit small, so he would have had to have made those bigger. But that's another way of doing it. So putting in your statement and having the evidence actually within the table. Probably what I would suggest, if you do that, that you make that column a lot bigger so you can get the screenshots looking a bit bigger. Let's see what Ollie did. So again, Ollie has chosen to put evidence kind of below his tables in this case, and he's sort of signposted where we're going to find the evidence. So again, all the evidence is underneath with a heading and an explanation and screenshots. Young Jake did very similar. So the tables are here, statements going in, screenshots below, and he's put some screenshots in the table as well. So he's done a variety of different ways to provide evidence, and there's all the screenshots and everything else that he did. So I'm just trying to show you that there's not just one way to do this. As long as you do write a statement and that you do explain where that evidence is, it doesn't matter really how you do it, as long as you do it. So this is Caitlin's, and Caitlin went through and again put loads of evidence underneath, making sure that she always wrote an explanation for each thing that she did as well. So that's kind of what we are looking for. You hopefully, if you've followed the guidance, and if you're aiming for that distinction, you should have lots of evidence already. So you can now go ahead and start filling in these tables to demonstrate to the examiner that you can claim a distinction, and that you have shown that you are good at taking individual responsibility, that you have shown creativity, and you can manage yourselves. So your task is that, to complete BCD3, and your teacher will set you a deadline today.